Hey everybody, welcome back to the PD Rush YouTube channel, where today we're going to take a look at Southern National Raceway in the ARCA car. This is one of those tracks where there's a really fine line between doing things right and doing things wrong. So you can find a lot of speed just by being consistent. It also tends to be a race of attrition as well. The race I did was full of people spinning off here and there, so you could gain a lot of positions just by not wrecking, which is always a fun thing for the week. So you're gonna learn throttle control this week for sure. If you're somebody that really struggles with being gentle with your throttle application, then you're gonna learn a new skill this week. If you are too heavy-footed with getting into the gas coming out of the corner, you will spin. And if you somehow catch it, you might spin in the next corner because now your rear tires are hot and they're not going to grip up as well. And the car is going to be a lot looser. So, let's take a look at the track map here. So here it is. Not much to look at. It's a really small track at 4/10 of a mile. It does have a lot of banking. So you can kind of think of this track as maybe Martinsville meets Lanier, I think would be the way to put it. So you got a lot of banking, really iffy on and off throttle, but really, really short. And has a little bit longer of a straightaway than Lanier has. So if you are good at Lanier, then you'll probably be pretty good here. That would be my guess. So as far as the corners go, they're pretty standard. They feel about the same. Not really any tricks going from turns 1 and 2 to turns 3 and 4. So pretty symmetrical track. So one thing I do want to talk about this week is brake bias. Um, you have to play this balancing act between wearing out the right front versus heating up the rear tires. So what I like to do, if I keep the brake bias on the stock, which is 68, then it seems like over a run the car gets a little bit too tight near the end of the race because in this series, as you know, there's no cautions. So after about 40 laps straight of driving really hard on that right front tire, the car tends to want to tighten up, and it's a lot harder to get the car to exit properly. Because what happens here, and we'll look at this a little bit later, if you struggle to get the car down to that white line and hold it there, as you throttle back up coming off of the corner, if you're too high off of that white line, off that low, low line, then the car tends to want to snap around on you. And as your front tires wear out, you might be steering a little bit more into the corner, and you'll find that the car is going to want to snap on you, snap oversteer on you coming out of the corner, which is something that you want to avoid. So for me, I tend to move the brake bias back just a half of a percent to 67.5. I tried 67, and what happened to me was the rear tires got a little bit too worn over a run, and it got really, really difficult to exit the corner using any amount of throttle. And it got very, very loose. So leaving the brake bias at 65.5, I was able to continuously drive the car pretty hard. And as we neared the end of the race, I was still able to put down a little bit more throttle and not have to fight the car off of the corner so much. So that's what I like to do. And for steering ratio, I've left it at the default. That might change for you. You might want to try 14-1. I wouldn't go any lower, as in I wouldn't do a 10-1 steering ratio or anything like that, because I think that that's just gonna help you turn too much, and you're gonna heat up your front tires worse. So I wouldn't do that. I'd maybe make the steering box slower if you wanted to. However, I'm maybe not that good. My reaction times maybe aren't quite that fast, so I struggled to keep the car under me with a 14-1 box, so I just left it at 12-1. So, with all of that out of the way instead, we'll go ahead and take a look at the lap real fast, and as usual, as you guys know, I'll be quiet, and then we'll talk about it. Very short lap though. It's a 14.810. So very short, very quick lap, so let's take a look at that now. that's the lap. So let's take a quick look here. So starting your qualifying lap, coming into turn 3, you want to enter kind of high and stay high, and then cut the car down low at the end. That way you keep as much momentum as possible to begin your lap. So you cut the car down. On throttle, might get a little bit loose. Right as you cross the start-finish line, you're starting to look down into the corner towards that cone. You want to kind of begin your turn in by medium brake pressure and get the car turned in and stuck to this bottom line as well as you can. Then throttling back up. Be easy and gentle with your throttle application. And then similar story in this corner. You're looking down into the turn and you want to dive it in, not too deep, medium brake pressure, and then let the car roll through. Again, keep it on that bottom line and expect the car to get loose coming out of the corner, especially if you're chasing it really hard for a qualifying lap or in race. So now we're going to take a look and see what happens if you dive the car too far into the corners. Let's say you're chasing it, getting all you can, and you stay on throttle too long. That's going to make the car get loose on entry, and it's going to be really, really hard to save it. Now in this example, we're going to take a look and see what happens if you don't quite meet that bottom line. The car is going to get really loose coming through the corner as you try to throttle it back up. So right here, you miss the bottom, or you got a car down low, and as you throttle up, because you've got more steering into it, the car gets really loose and spins down the track. And this is just a quick example of the exact same thing. So as you can see, there's quite a few things to keep track of this week. Even though Southern National looks very simple on the track map, it's anything but. The cars are loose pretty much through the entire lap, all race, unless you overdrive it to turn into corner entry a lot, then you might get tight into the corner, but then you'll get really loose off. Because again, like we've talked about before, if you continuously dive it really deep into the corner trying to make passes and things, and you get that right front really, really hot or really, really worn, it's not going to hook up. So you're going to end up steering more into the corner, and then because you have more steering input into the car, when you go back to the throttle, it's going to want to snap oversteer on you and you'll spin out. Or you'll end up chasing the car and you'll tag the outside wall or something like that. So, because the cars are already so loose, I cannot stress enough how important it is to manage your throttle application this week. Be gentle. It's much better to be a little bit more gentle on the throttle. If you'll notice in that qualifying lap, I'm not really full throttle until I'm out of the corner or I'm coming across the start-finish line, and I'm all the time kind of modulating that throttle pedal. What I'm really trying to avoid is heating up those rear tires. And the hotter they get, the harder it's going to be for you to, number one, like we've said, put the power down on exit. It's also going to be harder for you on entry as well, because the hotter that those rear tires get, the less they're going to stick on corner entry, and the less plant to the rear of the car is going to feel. So, another thing I want to talk about is wrecks this week. You're going to see them. And two things to take note is that if a wreck happens in the corner, because we're kind of going into the corner so quick and the turns are pretty tight, if a wreck starts into the corner, it's going to go up towards the wall. And a lot of the time, the drivers, if they lock the car down with, mashing the brakes, they'll pretty much stay up towards that wall, and you might be safe to go through on the low side. Just be aware, because sometimes cars will slide back down the track. If a wreck happens, if someone starts spinning coming out of the corner, they're almost always going to spin down the track unless they really quickly overcorrect and snap it into the wall. So be aware of that as well. Just trying to help you figure out your line through accidents, because like I said, you're going to see them. They're just going to happen this week. But it's helpful to have an idea about where the car might go. So that is all I've got for you today. Thank you so much again for tuning in to another track guide video. I appreciate you being here, and I hope you learned some more tricks for the track. If you did, give this video a like and subscribe if you want to see more. I'd like to have you stay around so we can all continue learning together. And let me know how your races are going in the comments. If you got any wins, top fives, or you improving, let me know. Good luck this week and enjoy your races. I'll see you all in the next video.